Good afternoon slash evening or morning, wherever it is that you may live. It is September 20th, 2018, 60. Welcome back, everybody. It is September 20th, 2018, 6:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, we are 2 days away from the official beginning of fall. And really quick, I just want to show you guys some things here. I brought up the continental U.S. temperatures, and there is a clear heat wave going on basically from the Great Lakes south. You could reach that over all the way to Texas, straight up Ohio River Valley. And it shows a little bit of a less of a heat deal going on in the Northeast, but that is far from true. Literally yesterday, I took these pictures of my outside thermometer. A little hard to see. I took these with my cell phone. The minimum temperature throughout the day was 112 in the sun, and the max was 123, and that was a current reading of 118. That's 118 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun when they were saying that it was about 75 degrees out. Here's another shot, a little bit bright, but just to show you the numbers on this thing. This one shows a minimum of 112. This was a little earlier in the day. But when you are getting your weather reports saying that it's going to be a high of 75, high of 76, and you see stuff like this, you know that is absolutely incorrect. This temperature gauge I've had for a long time. Again, the max was 123 in the sun. That will melt stuff, is basically what I'm trying to say. So we have this heat wave going on. We have a few significant storms that are making their way west to east across the U.S., which are going to play a part in what I want to talk about here. Now, we are looking at a few invests going on in the Atlantic Ocean. Again, a lot of these we have to wait and see exactly how they're going to form, if they're going to form. But the fact of the matter is we have four disturbances. One of the main ones being right here. 50% chance cyclone formation over 5 days. Now, I want to show you how this is being formed, and believe it or not, there is an influence of Florence on this. And yes, Florence is kind of exiting the Northeast as we speak, but this invest right here, believe it or not, is a bottom portion of Florence. Now, you're going to watch as Florence exits the Northeast. It's going to break into two parts. You're going to see a low pressure start floating out over Nova Scotia and then towards Ireland. Then you're going to see the second part break off and come down here and become its own invest. This right here is part of Florence. And then as these two pieces separate, you can't see the separate one up here because they haven't labeled it an invest. As these spread apart, that's where you see this form. And this could become a major situation depending on the different pressures that will be coming off of the United States west to east. Now, again, we're in a very similar situation that we were in when it came to Florence in the beginning stages of Florence as far as what the U.S. looked like. Now, I want to show you something. We have this atmospheric river that we've been seeing over and over again where we have a strip of moisture that is basically in Mexico. It stretches all across the U.S. and then up towards the Canadian border, and it kind of just causes this hook. You see this roundabout, and this is exactly what we saw as Florence was approaching the U.S. I also pulled it up on the water vapor chart, which is a little hard to read sometimes because you got to deal with daylight and nighttime. So this is over a 1 day period. As the sun came up yesterday, you could see how this atmospheric river is beginning to curve over, just like we saw with Florence. This is when Florence was making its approach at a fairly high speed, 17 miles per hour, 15 miles an hour, and then suddenly just stopped right by the Outer Banks and did its thing in North Carolina and South Carolina. Now, I'm not trying to downplay that whatsoever. There's plenty to talk about with that storm. Still, people recovering, still rivers flooding, stuff of that nature. Now, again, we do have separate systems that are going to add to that. I did pull up a rain chart, I believe, somewhere around here. Here we go. Over the next 4 to 5 days, we can expect some high rain rates over these states from Texas, again, straight up the Ohio River Valley. A little bit of something going up in the Canadian border, which could affect the Great Lakes and the Northeast as one. But you can kind of see how this follows that atmospheric river that reaches all the way from Texas, all the way across the mid part of the U.S. and then over to the Great Lakes. So basically, I'm trying to set the scene for you as far as what we may be seeing here. Now, we're going to look at tropical tidbits to try to break this down and see how Florence is actually part of this. Now, you could see this is Florence right here. These are the remnants of Florence as it moved up through the states and then hooked out over the northeast. Now, you can see we're at September 17th, which was 3 days ago. I'm going to bring it to current time right here, the 20th. And you can see Florence is already in two pieces. Those two low pressures are Florence. Now, I'll back it up to show you. You can see Florence was right in this area. As it moved off the coast of the northeast, it broke into two parts. Now, this part is actually what we just looked at on this chart here. So this low pressure has now become its own invest, which was part of Florence, and that other low pressure you saw moving up here, which is not recognized on this chart, is the second half. So basically, Florence broke in half. Half of it went up following the jet stream, and the other half got caught up in the pressures in the Bermuda Atlantic and is expected to curve down in this direction. They actually have spaghetti plots out for this. But again, the main thing I want you to look at is this area, because this area was allowed to form because of these two low pressures caused by Florence. So let's get back to tropical tidbits and see how this is happening. Now, as I move forward here, here is the first low, here's the second low. Keep in mind, both of these were Hurricane Florence at one point. As they split apart, I want you to see what happens. One goes up this way, the other one hooks down, just like we saw in the invest chart, and then look what forms right in the middle of it. You see a piece that gets broken off of that second low pressure, which again was unrecognized up here as an invest. This is part of Florence, the northern part. Here's the southern part. Now watch, a part right here breaks off, and it sits right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Right there. So now we have a separate low pressure. This is that, let me see here, this is this thing right here, this 50% chance cyclone over 5 days. Again, caused by the fact that these two invests split apart, which were Florence, now causing that opening with a high pressure around it. So once this forms, which it looks like it will, that's what we're going to have to watch out for, because watch. As we move forward, we have a very big system that moves over Canada, over past Nova Scotia, and that is also putting a downforce on this. So this thing is going to kind of bounce and forth, back and forth, and then towards the end of the frame, you're almost going to see it try to hook this way. Now, you got to understand, we're moving into much later dates, so we're in uncharted territory. A lot can change from now, but you can see this thing wiggling back and forth, back and forth. And then as we get to the end of the frames, you can see it wants to move back towards the U.S. as a hurricane. Now you can also see this line here represents a high pressure. So this high pressure, potentially, if this stays true, we're talking about September 30th, very far off. A lot can change between now and then. But just to show you how a storm as Florence can not only hit land, dissipate, break apart, but it can also be the reason for other storms to be allowed to form. And that's what's being shown on multiple charts. Now, this is the Canadian model. We're going to run through each one as we always do. We'll look at the European model next. You could still see that that low pressure is going to be formed by the passing of Florence. So let's back this up to a closer time to us. We're at the 20th. Here we go. Once again, low pressure here. This is the invest I showed you on the other chart that has that hook coming down. And then you're going to see one form right in the middle of these two as they break apart. Now, this one's a little more skippy. They skip frames with the European model a little bit. It's a little more jumpy. But nonetheless, they show that low pressure forming as the northern part of Florence heads over towards Ireland in that area, and the other part is down in this area, which I don't think will form into much. It may be a tropical depression, maybe just a rain system, who knows. But at this point, we can actually use Florence to show that it has caused this low pressure system to form in the middle of the Atlantic. And when you get systems like this, they are very, very hard to project and very hard to figure out exactly where they're going to go, because the Bermuda Atlantic pressure system, which is all the high pressures in the Atlantic Ocean, they morph and they form and they move, and that's what steers our storms. These storms do not move on their own. If there was no pressure around around, any low pressure system in the northern hemisphere automatically wants to shoot north. Now, the only thing that keeps that from happening are pressures on top of them that keep them low. So as we go back to this chart, you could see these two invests here stay very low. They're assuming that because there's going to be a high pressure in this area that forces them downward. Now, had there not been a high pressure here, we would not see this invest, and we still could see this one, but these two would be projected to move up rather than straight across. So there will be a high pressure in this area, a high pressure in this area, and then a high pressure above, which is why this piece right here was spit out by the remnants of Florence, and another piece ended up surviving a little bit closer to the coast. Again, this is not, in my opinion, going to be so much a threat as this part will be. So once again, I hope I'm making sense here. We'll change to the FV3 GFS model, and we can see again that this model shows the same exact thing. Florence breaks into two low pressures, one here by Nova Scotia, one here right over New York. This is the 18th, 2 days ago. As we move forward, you could see there they are, 1 and 2, and we move forward into time. They break apart. One moves up towards the island area, and that other invest hooks down, and then watch right in the middle once again. Here we go. Boom, there's that low pressure that pops up. It basically splits the high pressures in half. Like I said, we have a high pressure here, which is forcing those two other invests to stay south. And then we have this guy here. So we could have an interaction between that long invest cone of uncertainty and the invest right here, which means that there's not a lot of pressure in this area. The pressure is coming from these high pressures that are closer to the west coast of Africa here. And then this high pressure is moving west to east, forcing that top layer of Florence up towards Ireland in that area, and then this happened to break off before that high pressure was able to catch it. So Florence was initially cut in half, breaking the Bermuda Atlantic pressures and then allowing this system to form. So we basically have every single model recognizing this, and then having this singular low pressure by itself in the ocean, surrounded by different highs and different lows. So this is what we're going to have to end up watching over the next few days. Of course, the Gulf and those invests are very much worth watching, and I will be talking about them in the future. But just to see all these different models, which one haven't we checked? Let's check the good old GFS real quick, see how they say things are going to go for us here. The main theme here, guys, is that Florence has broken in half, even the remnants of Florence itself. Florence is not done affecting us, even though it is not so much on land or not causing rain events or anything for the Northeast. But I want you to look here at a low pressure system. This is why we're going to be seeing a lot of rain in this chart that I just showed you. If I can find it, I always have my tabs all over the place. You could see where you see a low pressure system, that's where the moisture is, and that's what's going to cause these rains over the next 4 to 5 days, going right up the Ohio River Valley, following that atmospheric river that we just showed. And this is exactly what we saw. Once again, I'm repeating myself because that's what you need to do sometimes. When you see similar things like this, you can expect similar results. Even though we're dealing with weather, and weather has a mind of its own, you can look at certain things and kind of get an idea of what to expect. Now, this is exactly what we saw as Florence was approaching. We had this big atmospheric river running from Texas all the way across the U.S., and then mixing with a big system up by the Great Lakes in Canada. So now this thing's going to continue to move west to east as that invest, which is 50% chance over 5 days, as you can see right here. Picture that big atmospheric pressure like this, curling over this way, and all this thing has to do is move a little south and this way, and it'll be stuck right underneath it, allowing it to either develop or not develop. That's why this is an orange right here and these are not. They're not expecting these to really form into much except for minor rain systems, but who knows? You never know, especially with these lower ones here. I know I'm all over the place right now, but with these high pressure buildups right in this area, again, that's what's forcing these to invest low. They have plenty of room to grow, so these are going to be very important to watch as we watch this one as well, because this could be a situation where it hooks down this way and stays either parallel or above areas like Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic and Haiti and Cuba and the Bahamas. It could stay right in this area and become yet another type of storm like Florence. And this will be out of the way by the time we have to worry about this coming down. But these two right here may come right through the Leeward Islands and then grow as they enter the South Caribbean or the Caribbean itself. We're going to have to wait and see. I know there's a lot of time in between this stuff possibly happening, but I'm trying to show you what forms these situations, and we can check out. Let's finish with the GFS here, and then I will let you guys go with this update. But again, you could see Florence splitting into two pieces after have already hooked across the upper northeast, gets back into the ocean, becomes two separate low pressures, and then right in between them, boom, there you go. A piece of this actually breaks off and forms its own low pressure system. So technically this is a part of Florence, but if it's named, becomes a tropical depression and then a tropical storm, it will have a separate name. Now you can see the maps have it jumping all over the place, but as you can see, we're jumping into September 30th, which is 20 days away, so we can't rely on that yet. So what I'm doing is I'm showing you the possible pieces that are being put together that actually influenced Florence in the direction that it came. That's why it was a rare storm. It's because of things that go on in the jet stream of the U.S. and the high and low pressures in the Atlantic Ocean changing and morphing all the time. So we're seeing that once again. Again, it's just a mirror image of exactly what happened with Florence. We had this atmospheric river that came all the way across like this, and as Florence was approaching the U.S., it kind of hooked underneath it. We were hoping that Florence would get kind of stuck out here, and then that hook would come down, forcing Florence to go straight up as it was originally projected to do. But what happened is that atmospheric river, that's really the only name you can give it. It's up in the atmosphere. It's a very powerful force. It's part of our jet stream. It actually wrapped around Florence. Florence got caught underneath it, and then it got pinned. And then if you guys remember, Florence was heading this way, and then a high pressure developed right here, not allowing it to go north like some of us thought. It actually pinned it south and kept it right into this area here. And we're seeing a very, very similar pattern, because one thing we know that's not going to change is what's going on over the U.S. This is going to stay in this shape until it moves itself into the Atlantic Ocean, and then we may see it happen again. So this could be a reoccurring theme that goes on, that we see these strips of moisture that cross the entire U.S. and then they hook down this way, and these are different pressures. These control storms, and you can see that invest right here, which is this one. So if we match it again, I'll go back to the chart. You can see this here. This is this. So they're showing this on the chart. This may be a rainmaker in some of these areas. I don't see it having enough time to form into anything significant. But once again, what it's doing is it's clearing the path for this storm to pretty much bounce back and forth. And then if the timing is right, this thing could easily hook down into this area and become another storm that would affect parts of, it could be the Bahamas, it could be the eastern part of Florida, and then we're talking Georgia, South, North Carolina, Virginia, anywhere up the East Coast, because it's rare to see a storm that's in the middle of the ocean hook down and then make its way through this way. A lot of times the storms that form low like these are the ones that either rise right above the Leeward Islands and kind of cut through above Cuba and the Bahamas and then make their way into the Gulf, or they go right underneath all that altogether and then decide to come up. Or they can even start forming down here, which is what we usually see this time of season. Now, keep in mind, we're 2 days away from the beginning of fall. So we still have, I'd say a good 6 or 7 weeks of intense activity that we will see in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, a month ago, had we looked at this screen, this would be all over the place. 1, 2, 3, 4 different invests at once while everyone was waiting for the first major hurricane to form. But after Florence, once again, people become numb to the point of where they see these things. So we need to watch this area right here. This is a very significant situation because with Florence breaking apart like this, it basically created this. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Now, as far as the Weather Channel goes, watches issued: severe storms and heavy rain, threatening flood worry for the Midwest. This is going to move into the Northeast through Friday, and this is exactly what they're talking about: is this strip, this atmospheric, as it reloads. This is what is going to cause that rain. But that is a totally separate system than Florence. Florence has already gone into the ocean. This is the bottom part. The top part is off screen here. This is going to hook in this way. May or may not be an issue. I'm not sure yet. It's hard to tell what this thing is going to do. But if we could move over a little bit, you would begin to see that big centerpiece begin to form on its own. And we can actually see it here. They actually recognize it. I forget which one it is. 98L, I believe, is what they're talking about. So this would be that 50% over 5 days. And then as we scroll down, 97L. Oh, I'm sorry, I got them backwards. Okay, so this is the invest that they're showing right here to come down this way, and then the next one is what they're showing here. They're not sure where this is going to go. Again, it's going to change on a daily basis because the highs and lows in the Atlantic Ocean change. They morph. They push storms down. They push storms this way. They push storms that way. It all depends on where they're going to go, and they change on a daily basis. So basically, in conclusion, for those of you that are still following, this atmospheric river we have here is going to be a constant that will make its way west to east. It will hook down into the ocean, and it all depends on where this is going to be at that time. If this can make it into this area here, that hook is going to keep it in this area. And we all know this is warm water because this is where Florence went. This is where Florence developed. This is where it rapidly intensified into a Category 4, threatening the East Coast as a landfall at Category 4. Of course, that was downgraded very quickly as it approached land, but still did plenty of damage. Lots of flooded areas. Some areas got skipped, which is still mind-boggling to me. I'm still looking into that as we speak, why some areas got hit so bad and some didn't. With the size of that storm, anything that touched should have been flooded, and I've been getting comments and pictures and stuff of just complete dry areas in the same exact area that Florence hit, which I just find amazing. So I stress the fact that anybody in the comment section, any of the subs that follow me, you can email me pictures. You can message me privately if you don't want to be named in the pictures. I love showing what the people in the area of these storms get to see and what they experience. That's going to be something we're going to do on this channel. We're going to be adding more things outside of weather onto this channel. I mean, I know I've been focusing on hurricane season. That usually takes place when this happens. I focus more on the hurricanes than anything. I do have a backup channel into thin air news. I may be posting more news type information on there. Just to keep them separate, because I know a lot of you come here strictly for weather, and I don't want to deter subs or have them upset because I'm posting different types of world news articles and different types of stories, but I want to expand the channel. Caroline and I want to cover more topics. We want to be more involved with this. We want to give you guys more information than just weather, but when we see things like this has to be the topic of conversation. So again, let's just run through this one more time really quickly. For those of you that are still trying to understand, we have certainly a heat wave going on. This may move into the Northeast. I showed you the temperature gauge on my window that showed 118 degrees in the sun. The high was 125. That will melt the siding off your house. There's been pictures of bike helmets of people going on rides that have morphed and warped as they were on a 2-hour bike ride. All it took was 2 hours for this blazing hot sun to melt a bike helmet, which is just unbelievable. You're seeing wear on street signs. They're beginning to fade. The sun causes fading. So when you see your temperature outlook for your weather in your area, especially in the Northeast right now, you could basically add 10 to 20 degrees on top of that, and that's actually the reality of the situation. So one more time, I'm just going to run through this so you guys can understand what I'm trying to say here. I meant for this video to be a little shorter, but you know what? Things happen. So again, I want you to remember Florence just came off the Northeast, broke into two pieces. One of them became a brand new invest, which is currently right here. The other one is getting pulled off, and as it got pulled off, a piece of this broke off as this high pressure zone moved out of the way and became its own system. Now, this is the one right here. This is the 5-day possible cyclone formation over 5 days, and each chart shows this existing. Now, what it's going to do after that is anyone's guess. So this is the area to watch, and of course, the two invests that are lower than this being pressed down towards the Leeward Islands, we absolutely have to watch. So I hope everyone was able to follow that. I'm sorry I was all over the place with this video, but it's a lot of info to explain without spending 45 minutes doing so. So I'm going to try to break this down a little more and break it into a few more videos. But just looking at how these atmospheric rivers are created, or how they form for that matter, is just unbelievable. You could just see the Baja region of Mexico is just flowing water up into the Midwest states, and then it accumulates up here as it reaches areas of Minnesota and Iowa, and then once it gets to the Great Lakes, that's when it begins to affect the areas of the Northeast. And then as we move forward, you could see it's keeping shape, and now it's beginning to hook into the Atlantic Ocean. This invest is almost fueling off the moisture that's coming down off Canada and off the northeast of the U.S. So this thing will come down in this area, but we don't know what's going to happen after that. But again, this invest here moving this way, as we showed right here, moving this way is going to open the door for this thing to have basically free movement in this area until different pressures pop up or morph and actually control this storm into where it's going to go. But obviously there's emphasis on this storm, 50% chance over the next 3 days. This is considered disturbance number 3 because we have number 2, number 1, and number 4. So this was the first invest that popped up. This was the second. This was the third. And here is the fourth now. So we need to watch these two, and especially this one, and this one as well. There's never an invest you don't want to watch. This may be another rainmaker heading into the same area that was just hit by Florence. But again, what this is going to do is open the doorway for this potential cyclone to form and then head in this direction. Now, we just got to wait and see. Again, we have many days before we have to actually worry about this becoming a threat to any part of the U.S., or even if it makes it south enough towards Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, Leeward Islands, you name it, Bahamas, Cuba, all those areas. So that is the message I wanted to put out today. I'm glad I was able to get a video out today. We have a lot going on. Caroline and I are still in the process of our move. We are almost finished, so you will be seeing these daily updates again, guys. I just couldn't get to it. It was very hard. I wanted to, but those of you that have moved before, you know that it just takes all the energy out of you. You have so much going on, the stress of changing over bills and you name it. I don't want to go on that, but that's what's going on right now, guys. So we need to keep an eye on this big atmospheric river that is crossing over the U.S. that is going to directly affect these invests that are going on in the Atlantic Ocean right now. And we could be potentially seeing our next major hurricane within the next 2 weeks, and I do not believe that will be it. We are being lined up for this atmospheric river deal to be a constant for a while, and that's what's going to keep these storms flowing in this direction. So that's all for now, guys. That's all I want to say, and I will be back shortly. Probably not tonight, but tomorrow morning we will have another video to talk about this some more as we get the data in. But again, 50% chance over 5 days, certainly something to watch. Thank you guys for staying around. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the positive comments. We are not going anywhere. That much is a guarantee. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.